Hello, good morning, good afternoon, welcome. I'm very pleased to be joined by Luc Grare. Luc is the head of Central and Eastern Europe for Lhyfe. Lhyfe is, as most of you know, is an ambitious, long-term green gas company that's looking to build and hold renewable gas assets, obviously specifically green hydrogen assets, and has a number of plants, obviously already operational, but also being built mainly across France and Germany. So welcome, Luke. Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, Adam. Happy to be here.
You're going to be speaking next week at the World Electrolysis Congress, which is in Düsseldorf, I think March 4th to the 7th of March. So I thought it'd be good to catch up and talk a little bit about Lhyfe's kind of unique approach, I guess. I think, as I just mentioned, you're looking to be long-term asset owners, and you're building your own assets, your own projects. So maybe could you give us an overview of your approach and maybe highlight some of the decisions you're taking around that approach, because you can afford to be long term about it, and you've already got plants in operational. So yeah, please, over to you, Luke.
That's good. Thank you very much. So indeed, so we see ourselves as a producer of green hydrogen. We invest in hydrogen production facilities, so to make green hydrogen by means of electrolysis and renewable energy. And of course, we keep then these plans for the long term in our hands. And that's already a big difference versus maybe purely developers, which are developing plants and with the idea to sell them after they have been built. So they have a much more shorter view on what is happening after that, and we have a long view. So in the long-term view means also that we look much more how is the market going to evolve, which kind of new segments will be getting into green hydrogen in the next 10 or 20 years, etc. Where, of course, in a shorter term view, it's all about having now customers and what is happening in the future. You don't bother about them because you have in the meantime already sold the project to somebody else who is having the issues. So, and that means also for us that we are probably have a little bit more appetite to take risks regarding the investment, because we see it on the long term. We see new customers coming into this, etc. So, and what we try to do then is, first of all, in the smaller plants, the 5 and the 10 megawatt size of hydrogen production plants, to have a good mix in industry and mobility. So industry is somewhere a segment which is probably better to predict, because there we approach those industry to replace today gray hydrogen by green hydrogen. So we have a clear outlook how much a quantity that they need will be done, and also for the next years to come. Of course, they are not probably willing to sign contracts for 3 or 5 years or longer for this kind of application, because they say also we don't know how the market will be evolving, we don't know how our processes will be evolving, etc. So therefore, it's a little bit more for the shorter term. On the other hand, we see the mobility, and that's we try to find the healthy balance between mobility and industry, where the big OEMs of trucks are making their announcements to come with hydrogen-driven trucks and buses as of 26 and 27 now. And of course, there is a matter of them to say, how will be this ramp up will be, how will this market be evolving, how many trucks will be done on the road in 2030, 2035. And then based on these data, we might be saying, okay, we see then the share of mobility increasing in the years after 2030, and maybe industry a little bit reducing. But that gives them a certain forecast to work with. So that is the kind of risk we to take then, and which we are ready to take. Of course, the difference is with the bigger plants. The bigger plants, you need clear offtake for really 10, 15 or 20 years. So we talk then also about mainly the industry. Now, another thing, and you said, okay, what difference you from others is, what we see in the market is lots of announcements, and I'm already looking forward to next week to see again the same people making even bigger announcements that they made last year with new drawings, with new renderings, etc., new animation videos, etc. But so far, never built anything related to production of green hydrogen. I think we are one of the very few who has really built already hydrogen production plants, had really lots of learnings and are in this way scaling up. And so therefore, next week, what will be shown is no pictures, no renderings, only pictures from real things, what is happening today and on our construction sites. Because we have already one plant built in France, we have built another site on offshore, and we have today 6 plants in construction. I don't think that anybody else in the world can say that they have 6 plants at the same time in construction. 3 of them are in France, and 3 of them are in Germany. And what we do is we start small, because I do not understand how somebody can announce a big plant today for 500 megawatt or gigawatt scale, etc., but never build something. How can you de-risk then your project? Even if you start in phases, like a 200 megawatt, then this is still a big chunk of money, and which you cannot de-risk. So therefore, we feel it is necessary to start small, to learn, to scale, further scale, learn again, etc., etc., and finally come down, let us say, to big plants which you are going to build.
Yeah. And the first plants you built, I assume that, yeah, I think you said are they 1 megawatt, and what are some of the sort of sizes you're working at now in terms of that you mentioned you're building, was it 6 plants or 5 plants at the moment?
Correct. So 1 megawatt was the first plant in France, which went operational in September 2020 as the first green hydrogen production plant from us. And by the way, also the first green hydrogen production plant in France. And also to mention on these, 3 years later, we are still the only one in France producing green hydrogen.
Wow.
But 3 years later, lots of MOUs and letter of intent from many other players, but still no plant.
Yeah.
And today we are building 6 sites, 3 of them in France, and this is 5 megawatt each of them. And in Germany, also 3 plants. One is 10 megawatt in Schwäbisch Gmünd, and the other is 1 megawatt in Tübingen, and another 10 megawatt in the north of Germany in Graré.
Yeah. And in terms of the supply of electricity to all of these plants, is it a mix of solar and wind?
Yeah, it is a mix of solar and wind. And the interesting thing also on these is, and that's maybe also where we differentiate ourselves on first many others, which maybe in an opportunistic way are developing and going to build one plant somewhere and need to sign then a PPA for this one plant. What we do is, and that's what we do mainly in Germany also, we look to a portfolio management of the electricity, because we have the advantage, for instance, in Germany, for a plant in the south of Germany to use wind electricity produced in the north and to use solar electricity all the way down in the south of Germany, made in Bavaria, for instance. The advantage is in Germany that we do not have to pay the grid transmission fees in the case we produce green hydrogen. So that gives us lots of flexibility. That gives us the possibility, all this plant in Germany, to make one portfolio of electricity. And this way, when we add more and more plants in the future, and somewhere in the future we add a very big plant to this, like we have announced the one in Luc, which will be 800 megawatt. This will be probably getting electricity from a big offshore wind park. And by then also the offshore wind electricity is further reduced in price. So which means these will bring the whole portfolio of electricity what we have, the average down, which takes advantage also for the early plants which we are today building.
Yeah. Did you mention one of your projects, one of your small projects was being built offshore? And what what sort of configuration is that? The electrolysis taking place offshore, and is it taking place on an island or actually on a wind turbine?
Yeah, so what we have done, that was in the Atlantic Ocean near France, 26 kilometers away from the coast of Le Croisic, which is north of Saint-Nazaire. And that was on a barge, on a floating barge.
Oh, okay.
And there we put it 1 megawatt electrolyzer on this. We use the seawater to make, after desalinization, hydrogen out of this. And these electrolyzer was directly connected with a floating wind turbine, which was one of the very first floating wind turbines in a test modus in France.
Yeah.
The reason why we did this was we wanted to find out what is the impact of the seawater environment on the equipment.
Yeah.
About maintenance, to learn a lot, how you can avoid as much as possible maintenance of the plant on the sea.
Yeah.
So to work as much as you can on the remote. And this was a test which was running a year. It is finished. And we had lots of learnings on this. Because for us as a company, offshore we see as very, very important for the company. Offshore hydrogen production. So 1 megawatt. We have the next scale up in Belgium, which will be 10 megawatt. That is Project Hope. Again, same concept, small learning scale, etc. And we see then the future really in big production sites, offshore hydrogen producing. Maybe to tell you why we see this as so important, I will explain you very shortly.
Yeah.
I want to explain also next week in Düsseldorf. So if you take today offshore wind capacity in Germany is 8 gigawatt. The German government has announced another 60 gigawatt to add on. The 60 gigawatt is nothing new because you find the same announcements in Netherlands, in Scotland, in Ireland, all about 60 gigawatt. Now the topic is this 8 gigawatt today wind capacity. Still, in Germany, they didn't figure out how to bring the electricity from there all the way to the south of Germany to Bavaria. There has been already 10 years discussion about a wire transmission line from north to south, which is called Southlink and Nordlink. They talk about 2 to 3 gigawatt. After 10 years discussion, no result. Now there is going to come a hydrogen backbone in Germany. And if you take one pipe, which is today a natural gas pipe, which goes from the north up to the south in Leipzig then, and further down to Germany then, in the south of Germany after 2030, this pipe, which goes from Lubmin to Leipzig, if this is then converted for the use of hydrogen, so not blending, purely hydrogen put in this pipe, this will carry the equivalent of 20 gigawatt of electrolysis capacity. So the solution is made in one shot already with existing infrastructure to transport energy from the north to the south. So therefore, if you want to add the 60 gigawatt offshore wind, it's only possible that the biggest part of this electricity produced by offshore wind will be transferred to hydrogen on the sea already done, and then brought as hydrogen into the hydrogen backbone in Germany.
So the pipes are going to the turbines and electrolysis is either doing on the turbine or on an artificial island or certainly I think you're right. That's where the huge energy source is for Europe in terms of the North Sea and the massive opportunity. And certainly World Hydrogen Leaders, we've seen that very clearly. In fact, we've moved our World Hydrogen Week, our biggest European event, to Copenhagen because we see the future being particularly driven by wind in Europe. So it's been fascinating to talk to you, Luc. Thanks a lot for sharing some of your thoughts. We look forward to you taking part next week in World Electrolysis Congress, and indeed seeing the further growth of Lhyfe, who have obviously taken a very not cautious but pragmatic strategy, I guess, in terms of building up stepping stones of 1 to 5 to 10 megawatts, and we see a lot of success in that, and we wish you a lot of success as you continue to build and start taking on those huge big challenges of 800 megawatts and etc. So many thanks, and we look forward to catching up with you face to face next week in Düsseldorf.
Thank you very much. Looking forward.
Cheers, take care, bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.